We're going to take a peek into another corner of the Spawnverse with a three-part adventure that unveils the secret history of the hulking Red Spawn's connection with Omega Spawn that led to the first meeting with Al Simmons. It's all right here in our review of Monolith #1 from Image Comics. See you in 3. Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of Monolith #1. This issue is written by Sean Lewis with art by Valerio Giordano. Sorry about that. Colors by Ulysses Areola, letters by Andwar Design, and the main cover A, let's try it again, is done by Valerio Giordano. The issue begins with Monolith in the middle of what looks like some kind of space prison. Through a caption, we know that this is in the year 3030, which is effectively 1,000 years from now. And we also see from the captions that Monolith is the last of the Hellspawns. Every alien around him hates him, and they want to take him down to eradicate all Hellspawns from the universe and from existence. From a brief flashback, which is only a few years prior to, we see that Monolith was in a space shuttle headed towards Earth. All the Hellspawns have been wiped out, and some great darkness or evil degradation is happening in the universe, and the universe is at the risk of being wiped out. So Monolith is headed back to Earth because he's going to look for some way to travel back in time to the point where there are more Hellspawns and they could stop the coming devastation of the universe. When Monolith gets close to Earth's orbit, he's pulled into a tractor beam from what looks like a floating city. As we get closer, and as we now know, it's not a city, it is actually a space prison of sorts. And inside are trapped not just aliens and criminals, but also superpowered beings. And it turns out the warden or the owner or the person who runs this floating space prison is Omega Spawn. And his goal, from stated captions and a little bit of dialogue, is for him to make sure that all the Hellspawns stay dead and that the coming devastation of the universe that's eating it alive continues so that eventually he can remake the universe in his own image. The flashback ends, and that brings us back to where we started, where we see Monolith, who's just ripping and smashing and tearing his way through all the aliens that are coming at him. Prison guards are coming at him, and he's just laying waste. Eventually, Omega Spawn says he's going to take care of this himself. He goes down to the detention center, and he's carrying this big, powerful sword, and the two go at it one-on-one. There's a bunch of fighting, kicking, hitting, slashing, what have you. Eventually, Monolith gets the sword away from Omega, and he stabs him right through it. He doesn't kill Omega, but the sword that he uses is powerful enough to weaken Omega, and by weakening him, it weakens his control over the entire prison. And as a result, many of the prisoners are let loose from their cells, including one very powerful nature goddess by the name of Gaia, who now intervenes in their fight. And that's how the issue ends. Let's switch over to the technical aspects, starting with the character development. If you want to know kind of Monolith's character and who he is as a person, as an individual, you don't get much of that here. This is pretty much an all-action issue from start to finish. That feels like a kind of a 1980s prison break kind of film that would star somebody like Sylvester Stallone or Jean-Claude Van Damme. So what you do know, though, is the motivation behind where Monolith is coming from and how and why he's coming back to Earth from 1,000 years in the future and what he's trying to accomplish. So there's at least some action motivation there. For the most part, all you know is that he's this big hulking figure that is pretty much unstoppable. Moving over to the artwork, Valerio Giordano, hopefully I got that right this time. His artwork is grim and moody and filled with big, powerful figures doing big, powerful action moves. And so it's all about the choreography and making it work. The pencils and the inks are in very, I would say, surprisingly detailed, a lot, especially on the textures of the different characters and the texture of the skin on Monolith himself. And then when you add in Ulysses Areola's coloring, which is also complex and intricately applied and detailed, visually speaking, it's a very sort of big, mean, gritty kind of comic, and it's very impressive in the amount of detail that you get. Switching gears to talking about pacing and structure. So the pacing moves very quickly. This is almost a nonstop action comic from beginning to end. It's all about Monolith ripping and tearing and punching and kicking and fighting his way through this endless swarm of prisoners during what is now essentially a prison riot, and taking all comers. He's ripping aliens' heads off. He's smashing aliens under his feet. It's like the Hulk with claws, basically. The structure, however, is where you get into a little bit of a tough spot. The What you're lacking is context. Why is there a space prison filled with aliens orbiting Earth? Why is Omega Spawn in charge of this prison? How did Monolith not see this prison coming from thousands of years away in a space shuttle, and not at least not soon enough to get caught in the tractor beam? Why is Gaia in the prison? How did she get there? You get all these questions that start to stack up on the top of each other, and the more you read, the more the questions stack up. So, granted, Monolith is not a new character. There may have been some context from a previous Spawn issue, but that's sort of the other down point is if there's issues of Spawn that you should have read to prepare for this issue, or to give you the backstory on certain pieces and who was what and where, why, and how, there are almost no editor's notes in this issue. It needed those editor's notes, and you didn't get it here, which is a bit of a miss. Moving over to the themes, that seems to be the consistent theme this week. Is this issue is all about survival. He's trying to get back to Earth to go back in time to help the Spawns survive so they can stop what's coming. He gets caught, and then he has to fight his way through aliens, so he has to survive to continue his quest. And then he's attacked by Omega Spawn, and now the two of them are fighting for survival. So this issue is all about survival. Taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, where does this miniseries fit within the greater Spawnverse? Aside from the fact that the main character Monolith is a member of the Spawnverse, it seems to be sort of a prequel that's so far out it doesn't really relate to anything that's going on right now, specifically with the outcome and the consequences and the fallout from the Heaven Hell War. That it may dovetail in issue 2 or 3, but for right now, this just feels like a prequel that's just out in its own space and doesn't really connect to anything. Final thoughts: what do we think about Monolith #1 from Image Comics? You get a lot of face punching, limb ripping, battle royale type of action that sets a stage for a simple quest: go back in time and stop whatever wiped out the Hellspawns, which is fine. Lewis and Gian Giordano got it right at that time. Good. Delivers plenty of smashing and a few cameos, particularly with Gaia, and then you get kind of like this cliffhanger that says, okay, this is what's going to happen next. But what you're really lacking is you're lacking backstory and context. The whole point of doing a prequel is to get the backstory and the context. So even though it's nice to jump right in with action and kind of get your blood pumping and get you excited for what's happening, it's sort of almost hollow because there's just not much meat to it. The art is great and the action is great, but it's just superficial and there's not much to it. Therefore, we're going to give Monolith #1 from Image Comics a 6.5 out of 10. Let us know your thoughts. Do you like Monolith? Or does it seem like a good fit for the character as you've understood him previously? Or does this feel like just an out of nowhere thing that doesn't really relate to anything? Let us know in the comments section. Thank you very much for joining. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Otherwise, stay tuned through the outro for the next review.